In this lecture, we are going to start with Chatter API. We will talk about how to get the user feeds about the login user. So this is very useful whenever you are implementing any application, which is basically the sole purpose is only to serve the collaboration between the users and a group of users. Then you wanted to display the user recent feed or recent chatter post that the user has made, so we can use that one. And then we can also see how we can get the details of a particular record. That record might be a user, that user can also be a login user. That record can be a standard or custom object record that we can create, a user can create. And we can also see how we can get the chatter feed related to a particular group. And before we do that, we will also see how we can get a chatter feed for a particular group, and we can also see how we can get all the groups that are available. So sometimes we wanted to have the ability to all the users so that they can quickly go ahead and they can easily request for joining a private group, or they can easily request or not request, they can easily join a particular public group which they wanted to join. So all this we are going to do that. So before we go ahead, let's quickly talk about how we build the URL. Now, why we are talking about building the URL? Because it is a Salesforce internal API, and we know, right? We know whenever we are trying to make a call out for any API, that might be a Salesforce internal, that might be Salesforce external API, or we are exposing or we are consuming any other Salesforce API. So how we can prepare the URL? So we have seen in our previous lectures, while we were trying to consume some third-party API, we had a particular URL where we were making the request and we were getting the response, either a success or an error response. So we will see how we can do that. So the very first step is we need to get the instance name. Instance name is what is your instance name. So if you log in into your Salesforce org and you go over there in the top of the URL, beside this, beside the very first forward slash, whatever you will get, it is the instance name. Sometimes you don't have my domain enabled, right? You see here I have enabled my domain integration org. So this is my domain. If I don't have my domain enabled, I will see some other kind of URL that might be like of AP13 for APAC region. You might see NA30 for NA region. You might see some other URL for that, but that completely depends on in which region you are. Either you are in APAC, you are in EMEA, you are in NA. So based on that, Salesforce generates the instance URL for you. So this is what you need to get, the instance URL for your org. The next part is that we need to get the version information. Version information is like in some of the API you might have seen it is version 1, which says that V1, some of says that V2, some of says that V3. Like that, Salesforce also as you all know, Salesforce make 3 releases throughout the year. So based on the releases, they change the API name. So that is what this API version is. We need to say we wanted to have some sort of services as data, and then what version of API is. Either it is a 50, which is the latest version, and below that you can say 49, 48, 47, based on your requirement that you wanted to have. But it's always recommended to use the latest one. So the first step is to get the instance URL. Second step is to get the version information. Now you got your instance URL, your version information. Now next step is to get the chatter feed right here. So not chatter feed, sorry, to get the resource, which resource actually we wanted to access. Now we wanted to access chatter feeds because we are working with ChatterRest API, so we wanted to access the chatter feeds. So here, that is what it is saying, that this is the resource. It is saying that chatter, which is a very minimum resource like chatter, right? And then after chatter, what we wanted to have, either we wanted to group, we wanted to get that feeds for a particular record or particular user. So all those resource here we can say, right? This resource can also vary with multiple resources. I will show you in a practical way in just a few minutes. And if we combine all these 3 steps, this is how our URL will look like for internal Salesforce. What internal Salesforce is? Internal Salesforce is you use your username and password, that means your credentials, to log in into the Salesforce instance. You are not using your credentials to log in into community or any partner community or customer community, partner portal, force.com site. That means you are using or you are actually getting into your Salesforce environment, which is internal. Now suppose that you say, okay, you said that this is for Salesforce internal. What if I wanted to implement the same for Salesforce community? So for Salesforce community, what you need to do is you need to put this information which should be sitting between the version information and the resources. Okay, so in this same URL, what you need to do is you need to put this URL between version information, which is this, and resources, right? That means between step 2 and step 3. So you can see here, this is the URL which it actually creates the instance name, version information, and then you can see what we have said that connect, we wanted to connect with communities, and which community we wanted to access. We need to get this community ID. So how you can get the community ID? There is an object in which you can go ahead and do a SOQL query to get the community object. That is how you can get the particular community. And then again the resource is going to be same. So that's how you build the URL. Now let's quickly see, we have just put down as a step here. Now let's see here what we have. So now let's talk about how it actually looks like in a pictorial representation. So when we talk about Salesforce URL, it is instance URL, where this is my instance that I just showed you. This is my version information, and then the resource I wanted to access. And what I did is I put my connect communities and then community ID between step 2 and step 3, which is version and resource URL. So that's how we actually prepare the URL. Now, what we are going to use in this lecture, we are going to use how we can test this with the help of a free tool which is provided by Salesforce itself, that is Workbench. And then in the coming lecture, we will actually implement this with the help of our Salesforce class. So we will see in the Salesforce class how we prepare the URL. So let's quickly start with that. So here I'm logging into my Salesforce environment. If you are not logged in, that is not this is not mandatory for this lecture. Even if you can log in, and because we are going to do some practical implementation, so if you could log in and try to do along with me and then see if your work is working, your API is working or not, that will be really very beneficial for you. So to log in into the Workbench, what you need to do is you just need to say workbench.com. So this is your URL. If you don't remember it, what you can say is you can just go ahead and say Workbench Salesforce. That is what, if you put this and search for the Google, the very first link that you will get will be of Workbench. So you just need to click here. Now here you can see, right, you can choose your environments, either it is a sandbox or a production. So we are using a developer edition, which is again a type of production environment, and the API we are going to use 50, and just check this checkbox for accepting the terms and conditions. So sometimes it takes you to put the login access. Sometimes it asks the to give that permission you might have seen for OAuth 2.0, because it is using OAuth 2.0. And if you are already logged in into your system and you have tried to log in Workbench before this lecture with the same org, so it will not ask the permission. But if you have not done this before, it will ask for the permission. So allow that permission, and then once you allow this permission, you will see an interface like this. What you need to do is just go to this utilities, go to REST Explorer, and in the REST Explorer you will see, right, it is showing us the second step, which is saying that what second step is. Let me quickly walk you through here. It is version information. We are not seeing this instance URL. Why we are not seeing this instance URL? Let me show you. If you go to this info, right, info tab, and under this info tab, if you go and click on this session information, under this session information, if you go metadata, not metadata, organization, user, and connection. So these are all four things that you see. Metadata is nothing, it is going to show you your organization namespace, partial shape allowed, test required, all these things you can see over here. But what we are looking is we are looking inside connection, which is saying that what is our API, which is 50, and this is the endpoint, right? So this is our endpoint. We are already logged in into your Salesforce, into our Salesforce with the credentials. It is not going to say that give me the instance URL. So we just need to work with this. That is okay. That is we are going to work. That's okay. Before we go ahead in the chatter, if you click execute over here, right, you will see all the resources that you can work with. So this is a version, and then next, if you click, you can see what all resources you can work. So if you, as we are working with chatter, and we say here, let's quickly find out chatter, where the chatter is, and then based on that, we can just quickly click on that, and then we can do. So you see here, we have got this chatter. I click here. Now you have seen, right? This is my version information, and this is my resource, the minimal resource that I need. And I can go to feeds, I can go to groups, streams, users. So I can find out a lot of things, right? There are a lot that we can do with Chatter API. Now if I click on this feeds, it will show me a response. Now what feed you want? You want favorite, you want feeds, right? So what feeds actually I want? I want for me. So if I go here, right, you can see this is the feed element URL from where you can get the URL. So you might be wondering, right, this is how we can get the URL. But if we want to know more URLs, how we can get that, we will talk about those later in this lecture itself. If you click over here, you can see here, now you have got this elements. This element is the root tab, or I can say element is the root element where you will get all the details about the feeds. So if you go here, you have, I have 4 feeds. I can open this item 4, and I can go to this body, and I can say this is what text that I have. This is what text I have for my feed. I can go item 3, try to open this body, because this body is nothing. This is main thing that I have. This body gives me everything. I can see the message segments. Message segments we are going to talk about in the coming lectures. But this is also a very important part, but we'll talk later on. No worries about that. So that's how you get the feed for a particular URL, particular user which is logged in. Why I'm saying logged in? Because if you see in the URL, it is saying that me, right? Me means the user who is logged in. I cannot say that I wanted to access the URL for the other user, not URL for the feeds, for the other users, but I'm just giving me over in the URL. That's not going to work, because that's going the feed related to me. Now let's talk about if I wanted to access feeds related to another user or a record or a group, how I can do that. I have already a URL for that. I will show you how to get that URL as well. But let's quickly see how actually it works. And then later on, we are talking about how to get that URL. I have this URL. I can just quickly paste it over here. Now what I said, you all are aware about the URL which is highlighted, right? The URL up to here. Now what I'm saying is, I'm saying I wanted to get the record. I wanted to get a feed for a particular record. What record is, I need to get the ID here, and this can be replaced either with a particular standard record ID, custom object record ID, a user ID, or a group ID. Now to show you over here, I have created one contact. We created this in the previous lectures, right? So I have this, you can see I have got two feeds I have. Let me copy this. So what I did is I just prepared the URL. Let me show you the whole URL. What I said, I want after the record, I provided the record ID, and then said I wanted the feed elements. Feed elements is like I had to get all the feeds for that record. And this is what we talked about. And I have 2 items, right? This is what I showed you over here. Now if I get back, item 2, body, and you can see, hi, this is a simple feed. This is what we have got is, hi, this is a simple feed, and it has some replies as well, 1, 2, and 3, that we'll talk about later. And then what I have is, if I go to item 1 and go body, I can say this is what I have, like add Udemy integration. This is a user mention. We will see how we can do that. When should we meet for release planning? The sprint has very tight deadlines at SFDC Panther. That's how my post is. I can just go here to show you, and if I click on this Udemy integration, it is showing me the information about the login of the user, which is mentioned in the post. So that's how you get the information about a particular record, right? That might be a custom as well. Now if you wanted to see information, let's quickly talk about this user. I wanted to see the information about this user. Again, this is a logged in user that I'm already logged in, but I'll show you over here. I can just change it, the record ID, that's it. You will see I have got, now I have got 11 feeds. Earlier what I got is I got only 4, which was recently posted to me. Yeah, now I got 11 here, which I was involved, and I can see either. And now what is the difference? When you use this user, right, what you get is in the feed items you also get the messages. The message is like if you have created a particular record, then you might have noticed sometimes you created a record, a chatter is created, right? This user has created this record as a history. So sometimes you also get those, and for that you don't get this text. You can see it's a null, right? If you try to, even in this you can see create record event. So that is why I'm getting more and more here. And if I go over here on the top in the body, now I can see, right? So keep an eye to this group. So that is how we can get the feeds related to a record or a user. Now let's talk about how we can get groups, and then how we can get the feeds related to the group. You see here over, like this is our version information, and this is what chatter. After chatter, if you see, we have got one thing which is group. If I click on here, I can get all these groups over here. I have created two groups. One is Udemy integration, another one is chatter API. This API has nothing, but Udemy integration has too many things, right? So if we wanted to get the feed for this particular record, which is Udemy integration, what we need to do is, we have got this ID, or what we can do is we can just go to our Salesforce org, and if you don't see this chatter tab, what you can do is click on this tab, this plus icon, and find this tab called chatter. It's an standard tab, so you will be getting easily. And here you can go to this groups, and under group you can see I have got Udemy integration, I have got this chatter API. So if you click over here, again you will see the ID of your group here as well. So either you can copy from here, or what you can do is you can just copy this ID as well. Now once we have got this ID, what we can do is we can just go to, or what we'll try to do is, let's quickly collapse this, and we have got this is the URL. This is the public access, it says the public access, the visibility. And if we go here, it might give the information about the particular group. That's how you get the information about a particular group, saying the ID over here. Now what we need is, actually we say that we wanted to have this feeds. After chatter we need feeds, okay, and after that we need record, because we wanted to get the feeds for a particular record. So we'll say that record, and then this is the ID. What we are going to do here is we are going to replace the ID that we just copied for our group and execute this. I have got these 6 feed items. If I go over here, item 1C, this is what I have got. This is the text that I have posted over here, something I tested for how I can put a JavaScript code or a particular code in a group. You can see over here, right? Java, JavaScript, HTML. So that's how you can get a record for a particular group as well. So this is it. This is a very basic for this lecture. And before we go ahead, let's quickly talk about how we can get all these URLs. So for that, what you need to do is just go to the new tab of your browser, type Chatter REST API, open this Connect REST API. Chatter REST is also known as Connect API. So if you see the name or different name, don't get confused between those two. And as soon as you will open that link, you will be redirected to this link. Go ahead, click on examples over here, and you will see ample number of examples over here. You can try to go ahead if you want. You can try before the next lecture, or you can just follow the next lecture, because there are a lot many things which we can perform using Chatter API. What I did is I went through all these URLs and then tried to pick some top of those which we need to do, which we actually can implement in any project, for any project. And those all operations I have also implemented personally for a client. So that is what we have for this lecture. So this is it for this lecture. If you have any questions, anything that you have in your mind, please feel free to contact me with the provided channels. Thank you.